Well, Donald Trump claims a decisive victory as the nation takes a sharp right turn in a stunning, quick victory projected this morning for the Republican candidate.
With votes still being counted in a handful of states, Trump celebrated his projected win early this morning at an event in West Palm Beach, Florida. He promised to unify the country, close the southern border, and, quote, fix everything. He did not mention his Democratic opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris.
Harris is expected to officially concede the race in an address to the nation later today. We'll take that live when it happens. Meantime, Trump's victory was guaranteed pretty much after essentially a sweep of at least 5 of the 7 battleground states, in the end he may win all 7. Also, Republicans took control of the U.S. Senate, and on top of that, have a strong chance of holding their majority in the House. Like I said earlier in the show, the red wave didn't happen in 2022, but it's happening now in 2024. Beyond the political implications, the election results represent a remarkable personal and political comeback for Trump, who will now go on to become the 47th president of the United States after being impeached twice and indicted 4 times and convicted once. He becomes just the 2nd former president in U.S. history to get back to the White House to serve a non-consecutive term.
In addition to the Electoral College, Trump is projected to win the popular vote for the first time in his 3 presidential bids. He's currently leading Vice President Harris by about 5 million votes. His 51% of the total vote far exceeds the 46% he received while winning the 2016 election against Hillary Clinton. But he won fewer votes in victory this year than in defeat in 2020, as nationwide turnout dropped by about 18 million voters. In his victory speech this morning, Trump attributed his win to divine intervention.
We're going to make our country better than it ever has been. And I said that many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason. And that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness. And now we are going to fulfill that mission together. We're going to fulfill that mission. The task before us will not be easy, but I will bring every ounce of energy, spirit, and fight that I have in my soul to the job that you've entrusted to me. This is a great job. There's no job like this. This is the most important job in the world. Just as I did in my first term. We had a great first term, a great first term. I will govern by a simple motto: promises made, promises kept. We're going to keep our promises. Nothing will stop me from keeping my word to you, the people. We will make America safe, strong, prosperous, powerful, and free again.
And I just wanted to underscore something that we just said a second ago. For everything that was riled up by this election, talk of democracy being on the line, abortion rights being on the line, I think it's a major discussion that we as a country need to have today about voter turnout down 20 million is really a staggering stat, considering the high stakes of the election, 2 dramatically different candidates, a potentially historic candidate in Harris. Just for context, Biden got 81 roughly million votes in 2020, and Harris, as we talk here at 7 in the morning, is just under 66 million. So just in terms of American voter turnout for this election, to have a drop-off like that, to me, is something else that's going to be chewed over in the coming days. Just wanted to flag that.
And interesting because the narrative of so many of the pollsters and the pundits has been the enthusiasm is here this time.
Right.
This is different. People are going to vote for whoever they're going to vote for, but people are going to get out. So very interesting to see such a stark drop in turnout.
Especially with the surge in early voting. We saw that here in Georgia. Right. Shattered records every day. 4 million people voted before last night. So I really think that's, hopefully there's an examination and analysis of that. That's a real big drop off.
So many data points to chew over this morning. Well, as for the former president's speech, we're going to be showing you parts throughout the morning. At 9 o'clock, we will bring it to you full. And then when Vice President Harris officially does her concession, we will bring that to you right here on Scripps News. For now, let's turn to Deputy Political Director Joe Joe St. George, who is with us down to break down that path to 274 Trump. Joe, you were up all night. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'm sure you're on short rest here. What should Americans know about what a second Trump presidency could look like?
Yeah, and I think that's what most Americans are wondering about today, right? Yes, Harris underperformed in urban areas and suburban areas, and Trump overperformed in many rural areas of part of this country. But that's the politics of how last night came to be. Now it's a question of what is a Trump 2.0 going to look like come January 20th. And we're going to spend a lot of our time today and in future days here on Scripps News looking at potentially what that may be. Let's think about just some of the things that President Trump, who will be he's the 45th. He'll be the 47th president of the United States. Some of the things that he potentially could do. For one, he's going to have a Republican Senate. That means he'll be able to confirm Supreme Court justices. I suspect that some of the older conservative justices may consider the next 2 years for a period to potentially retire and be replaced by a younger, perhaps even more conservative Supreme Court justice. Think of what that may do to reproductive rights and abortion, perhaps for a generation of cases going before the Supreme Court. I'm keeping a strong eye, though, on the House of Representatives. We have not projected who's going to control that chamber, and that's a big deal this morning, because if there is a trifecta, if Trump has the Senate and he has the House and he has the White House, much easier, obviously, for him to move his agenda forward. If Democrats are able to flip the House and win some of these very close races that we haven't called yet, that would be a check on the power of former President Donald Trump. This morning, think of some of the policies that will soon come into focus. We've talked about mass deportation policies, which was a big part of the Trump campaign. Military to the border. He's told our reporters at Scripps News that he would be open to that in certain circumstances. Elon Musk, RFK Jr., what role do they play in American government for the next 4 years? Elon Musk has talked about shrinking the size of the American government and being a part of a efficiency commission. And guys, we didn't even talk about foreign policy and the ramifications with the Ukraine-Russia war, Israel, Gaza going forward. So that's the map. It's obviously redder than Democrats thought it would be 24 hours ago. It's even redder than a lot of Republicans thought it would be 24 hours ago, guys.
And two other policy things. Is a national abortion ban on the table if he has both houses of Congress? And how closely does he identify with Project 2025? He distanced himself earlier on, but there's no political cost from aligning with those former aides who that initiative with the mass deportations and all of those other what critics will view as extremist policies. What would be enacted?
Well, he campaigned saying that he wouldn't do a national abortion ban, but we obviously know campaigning is one thing, governing is another. Additionally, this is a big difference from 2016 to 2024, guys, is this is an individual who knows the job now. In 2016, it was such a shock. They spent months, the first few years of that administration, trying to figure out what to do. Well, former President Trump knows how to occupy the Oval Office now. He spent the last 4 years thinking about what he would do differently if given another chance. The American people overwhelmingly giving him another chance. Think about it. Harris, as we come on the air, Morning Rush, she's on track to not even win a single swing state.
And also in a Trump term, and this has been something that's been talked about a lot, there were certain guardrails in place in that first term. People who knew the government, knew the military, knew the economy, and now, and those people didn't survive or came out publicly and didn't endorse him this second time around. Those same guardrails are not necessarily going to be there again. Also, and we haven't gotten to this much in the show, the Latino vote in this country broke. What'd you say it was, a 30-point swing?
Latino men in particular. Biden plus 23 in 2020. Trump plus 10. That is a 33-point difference.
So despite Puerto Rico, despite the wall, despite mass deportations, help me understand that.
This morning, Democrats have to. There's a lot of finger pointing. There's a lot of soul searching going on. I suspect there's some good cries going on across the country as well. What did the Biden-Harris administration do over the last 4 years that, quite frankly, was rejected by so many Hispanic and Latino voters in places like Pennsylvania and Arizona and Georgia and across the country? Was it this progressive appeal? Was it that the system wasn't working? And it was too costly to send your kid to childcare. Was it too costly to send to buy a house? So I'm going to pick the candidate who is perhaps going to deliver the most change. Now we await to see the extent of what that change will be.
64% of Hispanic Latino men Trump got, 42% of Hispanic Latino women, 20% of black men. He made major inroads with folks of color, particularly Hispanic and Latinos. And if you remember 2012, when Obama beat Romney, the Republican postmortem on that race is we need to do more to get Hispanics. And here we sit 12 years later talking about what do the Democrats need to do to get Hispanics. The pendulum of American politics is remarkable.
Deputy Political Director Joe St. George, thank you for breaking all that down. And we want to get out to Florida now with national correspondent Nate Reed. He's live in West Palm Beach with reaction from the Trump campaign this morning. Good morning, Nate.
Well, the Trump campaign is jubilant about last night's win, and I want to touch on what my colleague Joe St. George was just talking about. The fact that Republicans have won control of the U.S. Senate makes Donald Trump's time getting ready to take office much easier. With the Senate majority, he can easily confirm members of his cabinet, given the fact that Republicans appear to be poised to not even have a narrow majority necessarily in the Senate. He appears to be pretty safe to do things there. The former president touting his mandate last night at his victory party, saying that he basically has the ability to do what he wants now. Take a listen.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate. We have taken back control of the Senate. Wow, that's good.
Now, I want to touch on what my colleague Joe St. George just talked about, the question of a national abortion ban. That's something that, Republicans have often said they're not planning on doing. The former president said he does not support one. The reality is in the U.S. Senate, we still have the filibuster rule, and the fact that Republicans won a majority makes it more likely, that that rule will be protected. It's the requirement that any legislation, not confirmations, but legislation, bills, anything the president wants to pass, needs 60 votes in order to pass the U.S. Senate. That means that it will require, even in this Senate, depending on how big Republicans' margins are, it'll still require bipartisan support. That being said, that makes it far more difficult to enact something that would only be receiving the support from Republicans and possibly not even all Republicans. People like Senator Susan Collins, the Republican from Maine, Senator Lisa Murkowski, the Republican from Alaska. They will have a lot of outsized not only attention but power in this next Congress, because it will largely be up to them to determine the fate of much of the former president's legislative agenda when he takes the Oval Office on January 20th of 2025. The House of Representatives has still not been decided. We could still see a Speaker Mike Johnson or a Speaker Hakeem Jeffries. If they do win that clean sweep, it does become easier for him to enact large parts of his agenda. The former president saying that he wants to bring Americans together with his next agenda. Take a listen.
It's time to put the divisions of the past 4 years behind us. It's time to unite. And we're going to try. We have to try. And it's going to happen. Success will bring us together. I've seen that.
And Rob, as you noted this morning, that's pretty much the closest he got to talking about Vice President Kamala Harris. He did not mention her by name during that victory speech earlier this morning, and, kind of alluded to the fact that the Biden-Harris administration was divisive and divided Americans. He wants to bring Americans together. He's had rhetoric in the past that would suggest otherwise, but at the same time, he's kind of playing that unification image as he heads into this presidential win that, a couple of years ago would have seemed unprecedented.